So here we are, what appears to be a pretty boring day of trading. We are at the 1 minute chart. So as per yesterday's analysis, the down leg was over here, and this is a move up. The gap up opening got sold out, and now we are at the trend line of the bear trend. They've taken support at the EMA right here, and it's moving up. So the only problem is that you can't be certain on how big this leg would be, the bull leg. Wish there was a way to know. Not taking any trade till there is a confirmation of what is happening. There are people who are smarter than I am, and there may be quite a few of you who can read this properly, would probably have a fair idea of where this is going. So according to me, this could be the maximum of the leg up. Well, let's see. Apart from the bullish move in the morning, there is no good bullish sign yet. Yeah. And this again, if you see, if this is the trend line, the bullish trend line, the yellow one, right? So we could draw a trend channel line right here. Okay. And this is a spike. Spikes usually come before a reversal. So yeah, and is there another way to look at it? That's the question. So let's try that. Let's keep the bull trend line active. By active, I mean alive. And let's have this one. Okay. So now this becomes a wedge. Okay, that is completed its up move with 3 pushes up. But this is a 1 minute chart, so I don't know how strong this wedge reversal would be, but at least knowing that there is a wedge reversal would help us be prepared for a down move. The 5 minute charts, well, I don't see Now, God. Yes, whatever has gone up is getting sold into. That's what you could read. Right, and if this is a bull leg up, then that's bad news. And this would be tested for certain. Right? We can see a wedge formation already in the 1 minute chart. And 15, well, it's too soon to say. Okay. How to get rid of this now? It's the last thing I know waste time on. You get stuck. Yeah, exit right. There you go. You're out. So, in the 30-minute charts again, the only thing that looks possible here is this coming and testing this. Maybe a slight overshoot down. Yeah, it's too soon to look at these 1 hour charts. Okay, so 1 minute is showing. Okay, so it's taking support here, going up. See a spike up would result to a spike down, and then you have a channel formation. Right, so we were supposed to have a bullish channel as per yesterday's analysis of what was. We can now draw one line, a trend line here, because it's taken good support. No trades as yet. Can you believe it? No trades as yet. Why? Because no opportunities as yet. Oh shit, he's always. Phew. What in the flying fuck, man? Well. See the Papa work now, okay? Is this a good buy signal here? Once this crosses this, there may be people will have stops here. Entering in small quantities with a buyer, that would be good. So at least for the short term, the idea should be a buy here, a sell here, near about here. So we try that. But again, you know, if you're looking at the risk reward of this in its entirety, what is the risk reward that you're getting? Which is pretty nice, 200 points. It's not bad at all, man. Hey, but what's happening here? It's a flag formation. Don't lose heart, man. This is how the futures chart looks like and done. So what we do is try to stick to plan. So we'll have a buy stop order 42669. 42669. Right. Okay. See, I can't have a stop loss unless and until this order gets executed. Yeah, that is a problem. So I need to place a stop, but this gets triggered. Only then can I place a sell order without having margins. So is the time appropriate yet for? I'll just put this aside for now. I'll bring it when the order gets triggered. So is it? No. So am I making a mistake? Have a look. So you don't want to buy it expensive when you can buy it cheap. So there you go. Flag formation's here, right? My buy is here. This is a good 60 points. I'm buying more expensive, right? If you're worried about the flag failing, then you should not buy, right? That's 230 points, man. Any direction, there you go. So, yeah, but this is almost, the risk is lesser here, I guess. But so is your stop loss. This is your stop. There is no momentum, but that's fine. Right now, that's fine. Let's go to a sell stop order. Oh, so we are in the trade now. My stop would be at 42532. 42532. Oh, there you go. Made a mistake. Okay. Oh, what's happening, man? We're going to sell. Okay. And I have sell stop should be this at 42531. 42531. So you want me to manually exit this now in case it goes south? I think I found the mistake. Okay. 42531. Okay. There you go. Then trail stop as it goes up. With a limited amount of certainty, you can say that it would go up. Still, the money that you're risking is a few grand. You can draw a trend line. It's not a strong bullish move. No, do I regret the purchase? And the very fact that it's coming to my head says that I'm questioning it. But do I regret it? I'm not proud enough to deny the fact. If I'm regretting, I am, but this in many ways looks sound as a future, so buy, which is fine. Primarily because the trend is, even though slightly bullish, still up. We've had relatively okay bullish momentum. Looks like a flag formation, at least in the 1 minute. Here, good projection, move up. If you're buying call options, I'm not sure how that would be helpful, because there is no momentum now. There can be momentum right after this. You just shoot up, but till that, I don't know what will happen. But I'm with a very tight stop loss, and below this candle. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Then we stay back, reanalyze. If you want to calculate the risk reward, so let's see. This is an approximate. This is an approximate measured move up. Approximate. Okay. So we can consider the risk reward now to be will I be stopped out before the risk reward is calculated? No. There you go. This is the risk. This is the reward. And this is the risk. Am I confident of the position? Reasonably, yes. If it's a failed flag, then we'd have a good momentum down. So what is it? So 750 points on 3. So is that 1:2? No, it's not. It's 1.38. So not a very good risk reward. It could be better in case you trail it. So these stops were on of those guys who are going long here. You can see this candle that just took these stops off. This is primarily because the institutional players may not yet be involved in the long position. That could be one of the reasons. But yeah. Buy orders here with stops. Everyone's hit. Come back to the 5-minute charts to reduce anxiety. Right, so the only thing that I, in today's day, think that I could have done better is to probably enter after the signal bar. So this would be a good signal bar, and this should have been my entry bar, so that you would be in profit, then you're not as anxious, and now you're in profit. So your anxiety would go, and this is just buying it expensive. This part, you bought it expensive by 50-60 points odd, right? So I think my entry was wrong. That's something that I can work on. And let's see where this goes. It's a good bull trend bar. In terms of counting the legs, right now I'm pretty clueless about it. Which leg we're at. This would be the end of the down leg. This is the up leg. Right. It's hard to say from here. Mostly you can see that it feels like a sideways market now. Well, someone had predicted a sideways market yesterday. I guess who? I don't know. So again, after a strong bear move, if you're not getting a good bullish correction, that's the sign of a good, strength of the bears. Shows that they're strong. And they are in control right now. It's just a matter of time that they're going to sweep the rug from under the feet. And then we have nowhere to go. The long C. I've always had the intention of scalping it. I didn't want to keep it or hold it. Now, the moment it crosses this, which I'm reasonably certain that it would, because if it does not and if it falls down, then I think we need to just stay back and rethink our strategies before entering. Whoever's seeing this is just hardly $500-600, and it's more fun to see people trade with, lakhs and crores of rupees. It's more exciting. This is like watching a test match of 5-year-olds playing against each other. I mean, it's not going to be fun, but you have to be there. Here, you don't have to be here. I'm just doing what I can. Yeah, the more time it spends here giving me red-ass candles, that'll never inspire confidence. This is, sideways market, but still, the beauty of this sideways market is that usually when you have a sideways correction like this, the breakout is always towards the top, and because it's a continuation pattern from down to up. Can have from down to up, but this is not a sustainable breakout as per most textbooks that you read. These breakouts fail. The only thing that I'm counting on in today's sale is, I know that there are stops here. These are buy stops. People with the stop loss, guys who sold, they're still in profit. They're not lost anything. The moment this gets taken out, you get a spike up. I first plan to get the stop to break even the moment this crosses. Now, this is all wishful thinking, because right now we are still in a very prominent sideways market, and this is 1 minute, so it gets even worse in the higher time frame. There you go. It's 10-minute time frame. Look at the volumes. Yeah. Institutional money not yet in play, huh? So though this says that the bulls and bears both are in equal control, when you look at things in context, it's clear that the bears are in control, even though you're seeing an up move from here, because the bears swung the market down like mad. They have done pretty amazing things in the last few days. Have a look. If this is the way down over 4 days, and if this is the kind of pullback you're getting, something's clearly wrong. Oh, I think we've been stopped out at $3,000. Yeah. So why is this still showing? I think this is because of no orders. It went exactly here. Yeah, we stopped out. There you go. It's a big ass bear candle that took me out. I think this could mostly be because of no liquidity. So, like I said, I'll keep it back, keep it to the side, wait for a few minutes, reanalyze, see where we're at. What's actually happening is, I think, a trading range formation. I'll just leave it here. They're having a trailing range formation. Yeah, the price just ate this particular stop loss and now it's on the way up. Do I have conviction that it would work again? Not very sure. But this time, we're still going to go long. But we won't go long like the previous time. Should I wait? See, the bull trend line is still active. And there you go. This is actually to the point of not being able to analyze what's happening right in front of you. Right, so we're just hovering above the stop loss that was earlier put. No direction yet. Okay, we'll just wait. See what's happening. There you go. So the moment I think this is what we were expecting in the beginning. So here you have it. It has to break and go up, man. So see, the problem of buying it here, you're buying it at a higher price. It's something that you don't want to do. It almost feels like there's no orders. There, so you can see, buy orders. I think this is what stopped us out, 42,000 towards the down. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. Oh, yeah, one shot. There you go. Here, I shall take all your stop losses at once. Oh, ha, ha. And then one candle down. It demotivates the fuck out of people. They don't want to trade anymore. I want to. $34. You can see today's day mostly a negative delta. So we shall wait for confirmation before taking more trades. Yeah. This is a strong bear candle, man. Yeah, this is not the most comfortable. Yeah. Look at this. So this is not the futures chart, this is the index chart for options trading. So here we've already crossed this, but no momentum up. Yeah, that fizzed out. Flag failed. You can see another flag formation. This is a good buy order on top, but based on strong technicals, do you still think it is a good idea to buy it here? Because the downside is too much. You see, again, the question is, does it match my system? No, it does not. So, not going to do it. Or is my system to buy at good probability points? Now, had it been a high probability sale, at least here in the spot charts, I would probably even have considered it, but here at the spot chart you can see the kind of momentum up. You're seriously not getting it, and this is an area of consolidation, right? This is an uptrend. Let's just take the stops out. It would still be a high probability trade upwards, not down. This one took all those buy orders, trapped the bulls in. Damn, look at this. Damn. Yeah, this is a clear bull trend, man, till here at least. I don't think you should. There's a calm before the storm. The futures is not looking so good. Because there's no momentum, man. Look at this. There you go. Now you have to come, right? Right. This is what we've been waiting for since morning, and this is when they plan to do it. I wouldn't be too anxious to get on with it even now. I see this is right, this taken out of them. Right, so we'll have a buy stop of 42664. So you can see this again. It is what they did now is they went one tick above, trapped those bulls who had a stop order here, and I don't think stop losses here were triggered, and now we're in the trade, and this time we're going to stay. Right, we're going to have a tight stop loss, so this is where we're looking at 42574. So we'll stop. Yeah, there you go. Let's wait and see. We're already down to 3 grand something. So I took it purely on merit, man. So see, this could easily come back to this channel and then take the stop again, and then I'll have to enter up from this point, right? Enter it from here. Why was I worried to take that order? Somewhere here. It's mainly because look at this. This is the breakout that we were planning for, but no bloody momentum, man. Look at this. There's no momentum at all, apart from this particular bar that broke through. There's no momentum. I'm not certain if you have volume. No. 21,000 for that and 3,000 odd for this. So again, see, the purchase price was wrong. This is expensive. Say you're stopped out here. You're counting on this breakout to fail. This breakout failed the moment this candle surpassed this. Took some stops, came up here, right? So then you have a pullback. So this should be your signal bar, this should be your entry bar. That would give you a leverage of 70 odd points. So even if it is going in your favor now, that's fine. This was actually taken with maybe the right intentions, but at the very wrong time. See, this one is crossed. So there were supposed to be stops here, but we didn't get a good momentum up. But technically, we are in a bull trend line, and there's no trend line break till now. The channel is bullish after a strong bear for the last 3 or 4 days, and so the technicals are sound to take this up. Up till what is the question, actually? What point? The earlier entry, I think, was somewhere here. So this would be a few grand up. So that's not to be. Just hold on. It's too soon to move the stop up. What we're targeting is somewhere around here. Wait, let me put a number to it. You're targeting 42759. So this is what we're targeting, at least for the first measured move up. I don't know when this is going to be possible, but this is what we're looking at. Here. 42761. This. Will it go above that? I don't know. I don't know, man. Do I want it to go above that? Absolutely, yes. On what basis have I come up to the conclusion that it will go till there? Well, just based on the size of the first leg. That's where I think this end of the second leg would be. And if you consider the initial huge ass leg, then the move can go up till 42967. This here. So what is the plan now? plan now is to see this through, have some distance between the buy price and the spot price. Let's see if that happens. Should I bring my stop up? Look at this, man. This is fucking terrible. This is what? This is a sideways market. And I'm expecting momentum on a sideways market. Right? And if this comes down, I wanted to form a fucking head and shoulders pattern, which it could form. Right, left shoulder or head. This is a head, head and shoulders pattern pointing up. I don't know. Well, I guess just sit and see what's going to happen. If there's still no momentum, I guess I'll just put my stops higher, wait. Anyone know how to get rid of this thing? Yeah, look at this, man. Look at this. Okay. I'll sit here and wait. Spare a thought for the options buyers. Not sure, what would happen.
They encountered.
Yeah, from a plus point of view, they did keep the virus out of the population for almost 3 years, so no one has natural immunity. But we also know that their domestically generated vaccines aren't great. And most of the countries that used them in order to get their kind of first batch
You don't want this to happen again. Pump There you go, Mom. Your stop losses are triggered. See, the best place to keep it would have been here. But that actually goes against whatever it is that I've learned over the last couple of months, is to, not destroy your account just because you are in your mind certain that it would go up. You could be wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. And in case you are stopped out, and in case you turn out to be right, you can re-enter. So this is the second time we're sitting on this trade. This time at a much higher price. I think the earlier price was somewhere here. What is the earlier price? 42672. 426. Well, that's the current price. 42694. 426. This was the earlier price? No, it wasn't. 42627. That was the earlier price. 42627. It's hard to read, man. Getting old. This was the price that I was at before. This market. I got in a much more destructive price. Okay, this is where I was at before. My stop loss was somewhere here. I got run. So it was somewhere here, and that got run. There you go. Again. See, if you're looking at this risk reward, the only plan of action here is to. This is bad luck. Every time I get this out, it just goes against me. That's a belief. So that, some momentum, for fuck's sake. Man. Yeah, so this is the risk reward that we're looking at. What is it? 2:9, 2. So 1:3. Okay. Yeah, we're not bought any options yet. Well, this will also give me a chance to slightly notch ahead here. Or if it has to fall, man, it will fall till here, man. I don't know. At least that's what I believe right now. So. Is there going to be a breakout test? Oh, look at this. I think this looks much more friendlier than that one. This is all on the EMA. Let's adjust it for sluggishness. Okay. Yeah, just wait and see what happens. And when is it that I want to move up to break even? So I'll even come up with that number. Oh no. We reached that point of the completion of part of the second leg up, maybe, or part of the first leg up. I don't know. So we could see some correction now, and hopefully a momentum up after that.
Hey everybody, Peter Zine coming to you from, I don't even know where I am today.
Yeah, so I found this guy out on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I thought it was one of the most interesting podcasts that I've seen. Yeah. I mean, his views on Russia, China, I think they're pretty pretty scary. But yeah, this guy has my respect. I'm going to subscribe to him, and yeah, wish him the best. It was one of the most informative podcasts on Joe Rogan that you could see. Apart from, of course, Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson. I think those guys are amazing. The work they do. I'm a very big fan of their documentary too.
That's January 6th, and the news is out of Mexico. Ovidio Guzman, who is the son of the former cartel head El Chapo, Sinaloa cartel, has been arrested and spirited off to Mexico City in anticipation of the Biden administration's presidential visit coming next week. I'm not saying specifically the two are linked, but it is a little coincidental. A little bit of background. The Sinaloa cartel until recently was the most powerful organized crime group in the world, and that's because they did their business differently. They thought of themselves as a business, and El Chapo, the leader of that organization, made it very clear to everyone that you do not prey upon the locals. You don't shoot the local police, you don't rob from old ladies. To kind of sum it up, you don't shit where you sleep. And that way, the general population doesn't think of you as a problem. And if anything, you try to make their lives a little bit better and use some of your drug proceeds to help local groups. And as a result, in the state of Sinaloa, the bulk of the population is actually broadly neutral to favorable when they think of the cartel specifically, because it's a group that brings in money and doesn't bring in a lot of pain. This has allowed them to spread their influence up and down the various drug smuggling routes, down into Central America and Colombia, and up into the United States. And during the Obama administration, they rose to be the most powerful organized crime group on the planet. Now, say what you will about the Obama administration. The White House at that time saw that as a problem, and so put a lot of pressure on Mexico and threw a lot of resources at capturing the guy, El Chapo specifically. And we got him. And then he got away, and then we got him again, and now he is serving multiple life sentences in a U.S. prison. But when you remove a corporate head, like you do from any corporate entity, there is then a power struggle, and there is a breakdown and a fractionization of the entire organization. And that's what's been happening ever since. And so instead of having this one guy on top with a light hand with some strong directives, you now have a menagerie of local warlords who have kind of risen up in the years since and trying to take over the organization for themselves, and they are not nearly as peaceable, especially when it comes to the power struggle. So the main contestants, if you will, have been a guy by the name of El Mayo, who's kind of the nominal head of the organization, and arguably the most powerful, but certainly not controlling the majority of the thing. And then El Chapitos, which are the three sons of El Chapo, one of which is the guy who was just arrested today. So back in 2019, that was when the Mexican government under its current leadership decided that something needed to be done about all these secondary leaders, because their fighting was bringing the drug war in Mexico back to a high murder point, which they were trying to avoid. And so they went after a video, one of the Los Chapitos, and in doing so, they spawned basically a riot in Sinaloa, and they backed down and they released him. This time, the operation was a lot cleaner. They got him to the airport without too much of a problem before most of the cartel realized what had gone on, and they got him flown back to Mexico City. Now, the speculation, of course, is whether or not he's just going to be handed over to Biden as a gift. I don't have any reason to think that is or is not going to happen, but relations between the Biden administration and the Mexican government under López Obrador have not been great. Under López Obrador and Trump, they got along because Trump stopped asking things of Mexico. He's like, you slow down illegal migration, and that's all I care about. And so relations between the two countries have been almost cordial. Under Biden, we have a much more traditional relationship where issues of human rights and sex trafficking and trade and immigration and all the other things are all back on the agenda. And López Obrador is kind of like a less polite, less competent, more ornery version of Donald Trump, and that he sees everything as a personal affront. So relations are not great right now. If AMLO has decided that a peace offering is necessary, that actually could lead to a breakthrough in a lot of bilateral relations. We'll know about that in the days to come. The really scary thing about the drug war is despite the fact that Sinaloa is not really disintegrating but breaking up into different pieces that are mutually antagonistic, this really does increase the violence level, but that's not even the most violent part of the cartel wars anymore. One of the chunks that broke off from Sinaloa after El Chapo's fall basically went on to take over their own cartel. They are known as Jalisco New Generation, and basically the enforcers of El Chapo are now working there. And they have a very different outlook. Their leader is a guy by the name of El Mencho, and he is former Mexican military, hyper-violent. And when his group moves into a town, they don't try to kind of lay low and win over people. They just shoot the place up. Their general position is that we are drug smugglers, yes, but drug smugglers is an outcome of our violence, whereas El Chapo and the Sinaloa was like, we are drug smugglers and that is a business, and so violence is a means to an end. El Mencho sees the violence as the point because it underlines to everyone who is in charge immediately, and so they do everything that the Sinaloa doesn't. And their violence and their expansion has been successful at gaining territory and eliminating rivals, but at a huge cost. And they are now the most powerful drug trafficking organization within the Mexican state. And they are challenging the other cartels for control of each and every one of the transfer plazas on the border. Now, to this point, they have not succeeded in crossing the border. But if they do, their own penchant for violence, the whole idea that the shit is the point of being a cartel, is going to change the political discussion within the United States and between Washington and Mexico City almost overnight. Now, I'm not saying that is how this is going to go. That is a possibility. El Chapo led a disaggregated organization with a light touch. El Mencho is almost hierarchical, and if he were to slip in the shower and fall on some bullets tomorrow, his whole organization might disintegrate. But that hasn't happened yet, and there's no reason to think that it has to happen. Anyway, that is the risk moving forward, that the Mexican drug war actually comes north of the border. And considering that the Jalisco New Generation is so hyper-violent and is now overtaken the Sinaloa as the largest organized crime group in Mexico, it's something we honestly should be preparing for. Okay, that's it from me. Until next time.
I see if this as a spike, so I don't know. And then again, I had a measured move marked here in the spot chart, so we could have a good correction before we go up. Just so shifting the stop up, just wanted to make sure I lock in some profits for the day. We're sitting at negative 3,000. So now this could be what, 1 grand once this gets hit. So yeah, ideally, I mean, you can keep your stop right somewhere here and then wait. I don't want to do it because my capital is not as impressive as most. So we got the move right. I don't want to book profits here because it can go up. Oh, I think we're out. 1200 odd. You can have a look. So just mark. So this is our position for the day. Have a look. So it came down to from 3 grand. Now you're at 1 grand 612 in loss. Now this is not accounting for the taxes and the brokerage. This is where we are. Logic would have asked you to stay in the trade, but I just couldn't. When are we going to re-enter? If we are going to re-enter, we would re-enter again as long around 42580. 42. I hope it's the same chart, man. Okay, I think it is. 42. Then it can go down till here. Sort of 580, roughly here. See, this would have come down to the point of purchase. Makes sense to have got out. It makes you wonder if you're in a bull trend or a bear trend, despite being long for such a long time. Look at the way when the bear comes, it just slashes off all the gains. There could be a wedge pattern here. Yep. Yeah, somewhere close to the estimation. But let's see. This should have been a good buy. We should have been mentally prepared to. Well, this happened today, and I was late to start. So this could have been a good buy again. I think this is where most of the exports have booked their profit, their entries. They'd be out of the market by now. So export entry would have been here. People entering here, just relaxing for the entirety of the move up. What EMA is this? Oh.
Hello, Peter. What's going on, man? Nice to meet you.
Right back at you. It has been a crazy year.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year for everything, right?
Yeah, it's one thing when you talk about how the world's going to be coming to an end. It's quite another when it's like here and now.
Yeah. Well, you've been working on this type of material, this subject matter for quite a long time. So tell everybody your background.
Let's see. My background's in economic development. It's all about figuring out what works where and why if you try the same policies in the next town over, it's usually a disaster. And then I worked actually here in Austin at a company called Stratfor for 12 years, and I was their sole generalist. So it was my idea to kind of plug everything together and figure out what the map of the world looks like and how if you pull a string on one side of the world, something changes on the other side.
Well, your perspective on sort of global interactions with China and Russia and the United States and the energy supply and the food supply, I have not heard before. I haven't heard it as comprehensively as I've seen you put it together, so I'm kind of excited to talk to you about this. So when let's I guess we should start it with Russia. When Russia invaded Ukraine, you were not surprised.
Not even a little. No.
You expected this. And you felt like this is inevitable, and this is just something that was always going to happen, and it's not going to just stop at Ukraine.
No, not even remotely. The Russian space is among the worst farmland in the world, and so they've never been able to generate enough income to have a road network. Everything has to be moved by rail. And their frontiers are just huge, and they're open, and if you've got a force that can't maneuver itself, your only reasonable defense strategy is to be forward positioned and use geography to help you out. So you expand until you reach mountains or oceans or deserts, and then you anchor on either side of those and plug the access points. Unfortunately for Ukraine, there are two of those access points on the other side of Ukraine. So the Russians were always going to try to push through and retake that territory that they had controlled for most of the last 350 years. Unfortunately for them, in the 35 years since the Soviet system collapsed, the Ukrainians have developed an identity. And now they would like to be something other than a road bump.
So one of the narratives that was going around was that the reason why Russia was pushing into Ukraine is because NATO was moving their arms closer to the border of Russia.
There is something to be said for that. You just have to put it into context to really understand it. So the Russian point of view is for us to be secure, we need to expand until we reach a point where invaders cannot overwhelm us. We have to be able to plug those access points. But to give the Russians what they want, you have to sign over the future of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Finland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, Belarus, Ukraine. Oh, let's go on. Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, all the stands. Basically, the Russians, in order to feel safe, they have to be able to occupy total populations that are twice of their own. And I'm sorry, but that's just not feasible. So, technically, the people who claim that NATO provoked this are correct. NATO can't have what it wants in Russia in order for Russia to feel safe. But for Russia to feel safe, they've got to occupy over 180 million people. And that was never part of the game.
So what do you think they anticipated was going to happen when they started the war?
Well, I don't think it was just the Russians who anticipated it. Ukraine, the last war in 2014, basically rolled over. They proved to be militarily incompetent, they were corrupt, and they couldn't put up any sort of resistance. Crimea fell in just a matter of a couple of days. And I think a lot of us who are in the security side of things thought that this was going to be, to a degree, a bit of repeat. Now, excuse me, I was probably one of the more optimistic people for Ukraine because I had seen them develop a culture and seen them arm and train and had seen it be meaningful. But Ukraine is still a flat country, and the Russians are still one of the largest militaries in the world. So even I was saying that within 6 months to a year, this was all going to be over. But the Ukrainians have surprised to the upside, and probably most importantly, the Europeans didn't just roll over and let this happen like they did the last 7 times that the Russians have gone on the warpath since 1999. And that's changed the game fundamentally.
And when you look at it going forward, if people didn't anticipate that the Ukrainians were going to be able to fight back as well as they have, and then you look at it going forward, like where does this go?
Well, there's 2 paths here, and the problem is we haven't seen either side fight in their full glory yet, and until we have that fight, we really can't judge.
In their full glory, like meaning?
Well, the Ukrainians are the underdog, but they're in the process of rapidly arming with more and more sophisticated equipment. And by the time we get to May, they will have been able to do a lot of deferred maintenance on the equipment they captured from the Russians, which was more equipment than they started the war with. And there will be 60,000 Ukrainian troops that have trained in NATO countries with more advanced equipment back in the field. So, we get our Athens, if you will. On the other side, the Russians will have finished their second mobilization, and they will have at least another 500,000 men in the field. Now, they will be badly trained and badly equipped and badly led with low morale. But troops like that have a technical term attached to them: Russian. There's nothing about this war that is unique in Russian history. The first year is always an absolute shit show. And then the Russians throw bodies at the problem until it goes away. And in half of those wars, the Russians ultimately win. So by the time we get to May and the mud season is over, we'll have a more advanced Ukrainian force fighting a much larger Russian force. And we will get our first real glimpse at how this is going to go. And we should know which way it's going to break. Now, it'll still take time. Because if the Russians are going to win, it's going to take them a year to overwhelm Ukrainian defenses, and then they have to occupy the country, and that's going to kill a couple million people. Or the Russians are going to be able to completely break the logistical supply chains that allow the Russian troops to even exist, and we'll have 500,000 dead Russians, and the Ukrainians will be able to push the Russians out of Crimea in the east. And then we get to talk about the next stage, because this is just the opening phase of what is going to be a multi-year and perhaps even multi-decade conflict.
Jesus.
Yeah. Welcome to Russia.
So how do you think it goes? Like when May rolls around?
Yeah, ask me again in May. Right now, the balance of forces clearly are edging more and more towards the Ukrainians. They've proven to be more adaptable. When the Russians made it clear that they were going to do a second mobilization, that seemed to have broken the logjam in a lot of countries, most notably Germany. And we now have armored vehicles up to and including some light battle tanks, which I know all the tankies out there are going to hate that term. But anyway, armored vehicles that have some serious firepower are going to be coming now. The Bradleys from the United States specifically. And that is it's a tool that the Ukrainians have not had. So every time the Ukrainians have achieved a tactical breakthrough, they can only push as far as their infantry can run. Now their infantry is going to be mobile. And in a war of movement to this point, the Russians have proven that they're absolutely incompetent. If you toss Ukraine and Russia and Belarus, the combatants, into a single block, and for economic purposes in a war, that's usually the best way to think about it. Everything in that first column, the three of them together are the world's largest supplier. Number two for the second column, and so on. Now, I am going to be in Langley in a couple of weeks, and we are only talking about this slide. 4 hours. No pressure. I just want to hit some of the highlights here real quick. First, the world's #1 wheat exporter has invaded the world's #5 wheat exporter. Now, just as we took lessons from the Kiev assault, so did the Russians. The Russian lesson was that, okay, these people are not wayward Russians. We maybe shouldn't have believed our own propaganda. They are not going to welcome us in with gifts of flowers, which means that they should all die. So, we're going to do what we do best. We're going to advance slowly under a hail of artillery, and we're going to specifically target every piece of civilian infrastructure that we see with a double emphasis on anything involving agriculture. The goal is to make the land uninhabitable and make sure that no one is able to feed themselves in the areas that we conquer. That way the population will self-segregate. Group 1 will...
So what I'm actually waiting for now is for this downward correction to end in a 1 minute time frame. So you've had this leg up and just first push down, waiting for the second and the third push. We can bring this down to down lower to enter. Then the first target should be somewhere here. Let's see if that happens. Just to be a part of this and not do anything stupid, I think is... Why am I not taking a down trade? Because the trend is up. You don't know how powerful these legs down would be. And it's hard to read these patterns because it's, sometimes you miss out on it. It's not clear. See, there you go. This is the up move now. I don't know what's triggering this. If it continues up, then I've probably bought it at a very wrong price. The idea is always to buy before you anticipate the move, and not when the move has matured so much. That's a recipe for disaster. And even if you're caught in the trend out of accident, even then you are probably you won't be able to enjoy the ride as much, because back of your mind you know that the reversal is due anytime. A reversal or the correction or a pullback. So if you're working with tight stops, you need to have a good entry. Well, somehow this looks indicative of the end of the leg down. Somehow, not very certain. It looks like that. Here. 1, 2. Again, you can see there's no conviction to go upwards now. You can look at this. You need balls to see if there is a reversal. You can get a good reversal at this point. Okay. Or you can still get one leg down from these points. But yet, one can argue that this move is good for another few points. Yeah, that would be a good double top formation of 1 hour charts. I think that would be good price action down. Or it could even shoot up. See, unless the delta to break it is crazy. Which you're not getting here. And because it's a trend up, you don't have a conviction to go short. One of those days, huh? One of those days. Sound like this. To the tick. Finish the move down. This could, I don't know, man, if this is, if this would work. I'll just take my order and come back down. The measured move up could be till here. That's what I'm saying. If you're in doubt, then you can get out. It's almost an inside bar.
Can you steel man the case that the Prime Minister of this country, Trudeau, wants the best for this country and actually might do good things for this country as an intellectual challenge?
Sure. He seems to get along well with his wife. He has some kids. There's no sexual scandals. And he's in a position where that could easily be the case. He seems to have done some good things on the oceanic management front. He's put a fair bit of Canada's oceans into marine protected areas, and that might be his most fundamental legacy, if it's real. I've been trying to get information about the actual reality of the protection, and I haven't been able to do that. But that's a good thing.
So sorry, the family thing is there's some
Speaks
aspect
to his character.
his character. There is some aspect to him that makes him a good man.
Well,
in that sense.
I mean, there's the evidence there, you know. I mean, he's not a Jeffrey Epstein profligate on the sexual front, so that's something. And his wife, they seem to have a real marriage, and he has kids, so, you know, good for him.
That's a good start, by the way, for a leader.
Yeah, right.
To be a good man.
Well, then I also thought, okay, well, after the Liberals had brought in a Harvard intellectual who was a Canadian to be their last leader, he didn't work out. And then they're flailing about for a leader. And the Liberals in Canada are pretty good at maintaining power and leadership and have been the dominant governing party in Canada for a long time. And so they went to Justin and said, well, you know, it's you or a conservative. And you can imagine that's not a positive specter for someone who's on the left or even a liberal, especially, and Trudeau's quite a bit on the left. And they said, we need you to run. And then I thought, okay, well, the answer to that should have been no, because Trudeau, Justin has no training for this, no experience. He's a part-time drama teacher, fundamentally. He hadn't run a business. He just didn't know enough to be prime minister. But then I'm trying to put myself in his position, eh? So it's like, okay, I don't know enough, but I'm young. And we don't want the Conservatives. And they had a run, a 10-year run, so maybe it was time for a new government. Maybe I could grow into this man. Maybe I could surround myself with good people and I could learn humbly and I could become the person I'm now pretending to be, which we all have to do as we move forward, right? And so then I thought, okay, I think you made a mistake there because you ran only on your father's name. You didn't have the background. But let's give the devil his due and say that's no problem. Okay, so now what do? Well, you get elected and your first act is to make the cabinet 50% women, despite the fact that only 25% of the elected members are female. It's like, okay, you just halved your talent pool.
Where does that move come from? Deep somewhere in the heart, or
No.
is it trying to listen to the social forces that of the moment and try to ride those ways
You don't
towards
make a
maybe
decision like
greater
that by
popularity?
After thinking it through. It's like, no, you just halved your talent pool for cabinet positions. That's what you did. There's enough cabinet positions. You could argue that each of them met threshold. It's like, there's a big difference between threshold and excellent.
So you don't think that came from a place of compassion?
I don't care if it did. I don't regard compassion as a virtue. Compassion is a reflex, not a virtue.
You don't think
Judicious compassion is a virtue.
Wait a minute. Compassion can come deep from the human heart and the human mind, I think. Are we talking about the same kind of compassion?
Yes.
Trying to understand the suffering.
Treating
of the world?
adults like infants is not virtuous.
I see. But well, compassion isn't treating adults like those are just terms.
Are you sure?
Okay. Whatever the term is, maybe love is maybe the
Eatable
better
compassion
word.
is.
I suppose I'm speaking to love. You don't think those ideas came from
Love is
concern?
compassion.
You don't think
Love
those...
is a blend of compassion and encouragement and truth. Love's
And
complicated, man.
Yeah, it has
If
a
I
lot of
love
good
you,
things in it,
if
yes.
I love you, is it compassion or encouragement you want from me?
Yeah, it's a dance. Love is definitely a dance of two humans. Ultimately, that leads to the growth of both.
Well,
yes.
that's the thing. The growth element is crucial. Because the growth element, to foster the growth element, that requires judgment. Compassion and judgment, and have been conceptualized this way forever, two hands of God, mercy and justice. They have to operate in tandem, right? And mercy is, flawed as you are, you're acceptable. It's like, well, do you want that? Do you want your flaws to be acceptable? And the answer to that is no. It's like, well, that's where the judgment comes in. It's like, but you could be better. You could be more than you are. And that's the maternal and the paternal in some fundamental sense. And there has to be an active exchange of information between those two poles. So even if Trudeau was motivated by compassion, it's like, yeah, just how loving are you, first of all? No, it was a really bad decision. And then he's expressed contempt for monetary policy. I'm not interested in monetary policy. It's like, okay, but you're prime minister. And he's expressed admiration for the Chinese Communist Party because they can be very efficient in their pursuit of environmental goals. It's like, oh yeah, efficiency, eh? The efficiency of the tyranny in the service of your terror. And I've watched him repeatedly, and I've listened to him a lot, and I've tried to do that clinically and with some degree of dispassion. And that's hard, too, because his father, Pierre, devastated the West in 1982 with the national energy policy. And Trudeau is doing exactly the same thing again. And so as a Westerner as well, I have an inbuilt animus, and one that's well-deserved, because Central Canada, especially the glittery, literati elite types in the Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto triangle, have exploited the West and expressed contempt for the West far too much for far too long. And that's accelerating at the moment, for example, with Trudeau's recent attack on the Canadian farmers. He's an enemy of the oil and gas industry, which is an utter and absolute bloody catastrophe. And look what's happened in Europe, at least in partial consequence. And he's no friend to the farmers. So I've tried to steel man him, you know. I try to put myself in the position of the people that I'm criticizing. I think he's a narcissist.
Do you think there's a degree to which power changed him?
If you're not suited for the position, if you're not the man for the position, you can be absolutely 100% sure that the power will corrupt you. How could it not? I mean, at the least, if you don't have the chops for the job, you have to devalue the job to the point where you can feel comfortable inhabiting it. So, yes, I think that it's corrupted him. And I mean, look at him doubling down. We wear masks in flights into Canada. We have to fill out an ArriveCan bureaucratic form on our phones because a passport isn't good enough. We can't get a passport. What if you're 85 and you don't know how to use a smartphone? Oh, well, too bad for you. Yeah. It's like, yes, it's corrupted him.
Would you talk to him? Well, if you were to sit down and talk with him and he wanted to talk, would you, and what kind of things would you talk about, perhaps on your podcast?
I don't think I've ever said no to talking to anyone. So, which is, you know.
Would you, would that be a first, or would you make that conversation? Do you believe in the power of
No, I'd ask him
in those kinds of contexts?
No, if he was willing to talk to me, I'd talk because I'd like to ask him. I have lots of things I'd like to ask him about. I mean, I've had political types in Canada on my podcast and tried to ask them questions. So I'd like to know.
Is there
you know,
something...
and maybe I've got a big part of him wrong.
Yes.
And I probably do. But my observation has been that every chance he had to retreat from his pharaonic position, let's say, he doubled down. And our parliament is not running for the next year. It's still Zoom in. It's still COVID lockdown parliament for the next year. It's already been fatally compromised, perhaps, by the lockdowns for the last couple of years. And this is Parliament we're talking about.
Yeah. There's a kind of paralysis, fear-driven paralysis that also, in part, some of the most brilliant people I know are lost in this paralysis. I don't think people assign a word to it, but it's almost like a fear of this unknown thing that lurks in the shadows. And that, unfortunately, that fear is leveraged by people that, you know, who aren't in academic circles, who aren't faculty or students and so on, or more in administration, and they start to use that fear, which makes me quite uncomfortable. It does lend people in the positions of power who are not good at handling that power to become slowly, day by day, a little bit more corrupt.
I was really trying to figure out, you know, the last 2 weeks, thinking this through. It's like, how do you know? Let's say someone asked me a question in the YouTube comment. He said, well, why can I trust your advice on the environmental front? And I thought, that's a really good question. Okay, let's see if we can figure out the principles by which the advice would be trustworthy. Okay, how do you know it's not trustworthy? Well, one potential response to that would be the claims are not in accordance with the facts. But, you know, facts are tricky things, and it depends on where you look for them. So that's a tough one to get right because, for example, Lomberg's fundamental critics argue about his facts, not just his interpretation of them. So that can't be an unerring guide. And so I thought, well, the facts exactly doesn't work because when it's about everything, there's too many facts. So then how do you determine if someone's a trustworthy guide in the face of the apocalyptic unknown? Because that's really the question. And the answer is, they're not terrified tyrants. I think that's the answer. Now, maybe that's wrong. If someone has a better answer...
How do you know if they're a terrified tyrant?
Because they're willing to use compulsion on other people when they could use goodwill. Like, the farmers in Canada objected. They said, look, we have every economic reason to use as little fertilizer as we can because it's expensive. We have satellite maps of where we put the fertilizer. We have cut our fertilizer use so substantially in the last 40 years, you can't believe it, and we grow way more food. We're already breaking ourselves in half. And if you know farmers, especially the ones who still survive, you think, You think those people don't know what they're doing. It's like, they're pretty damn sophisticated, man. Like, way more sophisticated than our prime minister. And now you tell them, no, it's a 30% reduction, and we don't care how much food you're growing. So it's not a reduction that's dependent on amount of food produced per unit of fertilizer used, which would be, at least, you can imagine it. So, okay, so you're producing this much food, and you use this much fertilizer, so you're hyper efficient. Maybe we take the 10% of farmers who are the least efficient in that metric, and we say to them, you have to get as efficient as the average farmer. And then they say, well, look, our situation's different. We're in a more northern climate. The soil's weaker. You obviously have to bargain with that, but at least you reward them for their productivity. Well, it's like, well, Holland isn't going to have beef. Well, where are they going to get it? Well, you don't need it. It's like, oh, I see. You get to tell me what I can eat now, do you? Really? Okay. And Holland is going to import food from where that's more efficient on the fertilizer front? There's no one more efficient than Holland. And same with Canada. And isn't this going to make food prices more expensive? And doesn't that mean that hungry people die? Because that is what it means. So
ultimately, poor people pay the price of these kinds of policies.
Not ultimately. Today. That's a crucial distinction, because they say, well, ultimately the poor will benefit. Yeah, except the dead ones.
Yes, today.
Today, right.
Well, I think I'm having a bad feeling about this. The range is always good. Like I said, it's a good continuation pattern. This is going on for long, so you can expect a good momentum either side. If you're looking at the order flow chart, you have pending orders here, 4, 2, 6, 7, 9, here, and here. Upward, I think the order just gets over here unless the institutions decide to pump more. So you probably have buy orders here and here. Here and here. So have to wait.
Will run. They will become refugees. We never have to worry about them again. Group 2, the ones who stay, are clearly combatants, and we can shoot them on sight. So they advance slowly. In 2 months, they used 2.5 million artillery shells, and then they brought in the Wagner Group and the Chechens to do cleansing operations. From just the areas that are liberated to this point, we know that civilian casualties have been at least 250,000 in this war so far. We estimate that Mariupol alone which hasn't been liberated, so we're not sure, lost another 100,000 people. The low-end estimate for the number of people that the Russians have forcibly deported to Siberia is also 250,000, mostly children. This is the most systematic genocide humanity has ever seen. This is worse than the Holocaust on the numbers and the timescale. And Russia has made sure that Ukraine will probably never be a food exporter again. We're only at the beginning of seeing the impact of this on a global scale. And as much as this bothers me, this is even worse because this is the source, the single largest source of fertilizer in the world. Now that hasn't been crushed yet, but now that there is suspicion that in the last 48 hours, the Russians have started deliberately destroying their own infrastructure just to spite Europe. You may have heard about the Nord Stream pipeline bombing. We don't know who did that yet. If it was the Russians, you should count on everything on this list going to zero. 40% of the world's potash fertilizer comes from Belarus and Ukraine. And if that goes away, so does at least 1 billion people on the planet. There's no replacement. It takes 10 years to bring a new potash facility online. 1983, the summit in Reykjavik. Gorbachev and Reagan almost did away with nuclear weapons completely. But at the last second, Gorbachev was like, this is all great, glad we have a deal, but there's just one sticking point. You have to get rid of this Star Wars program. Because if we're going to get rid of 95% of our weapons, but you have a missile shield, that's just not fair. And Reagan's like, well, yeah, that's the whole idea. It's not supposed to be fair. And he walked out. Very Reagan. So Gorbachev goes home a little dejected and convinced that space lasers are the future of great power competition. And he builds out the supply chain that's necessary to support them. Now, the Soviet system obviously disintegrated before any of that could be launched, but the stuff on the ground was built. Part of that is neon. Now, neon is a little atypical for an industrial material. Stage one is a byproduct of steel manufacture. You have an air separation unit that pulls out nitrogen and oxygen, which you then blow into the steel furnace in order to get the composition you want. And everything else goes into a third canister, which is sent to another facility that's more sophisticated for separation and purification. You pull out the helium and the argon and the carbon dioxide and the neon. The first phase, air separation units, are done at steel facilities in southern Russia, which are under sanctions and are shutting down. The second phase, purification, is done either in Odessa in Ukraine, which hasn't had power in 4 months, or Mariupol, where the facilities are gone. That is 80% of global neon. Today we use neon not for giant space lasers, but for the etching lasers that are in semiconductor fabrication facilities. It gets a little worse. The remaining 20% all comes from China. Now, not all semiconductors are created equal. There's 3 kinds. Number one, you've got the high-end stuff that is in your phone or your laptop or a server. Those are almost exclusively Taiwan, Korea, Japan, the United States. By value, that's like 3/4 of the total. The ones in the middle, aerospace, power regulation, automotive, that's Thailand, that's Malaysia. The low end, the Internet of Things, the margarita machine that chimes your phone when the slush is just right, that's from China. The smart light bulbs, that's from China. The smart whisk, that's China. So we've got one country that makes the low end, that has the neon, and everyone else who doesn't. We don't just need Russia back. We don't just need Ukraine back. We don't just need Russia and Ukraine working together again. We need to be able to jump in a time machine and go back before the war because the infrastructure's gone. In the meantime, that means we all, at some point in the next 12 months, have to figure out how to work without semiconductors. The only ones that we're going to be able to make reliably are the low-end ones. Okay, let's talk energy. Single biggest issue is going to be with oil. This is a pipeline map. The green are the oil pipelines, and these are the 2 export points that matter the most. You have Primorsk on the Baltic Sea in the north, and Novorossiysk on the Black Sea in the south. Each of them can take about 1.6 million barrels of exports a day. So collectively, that's about half of the Russian total. There are currently regulations in place in the United States and Europe that make it illegal for any private or state company to provide insurance for any Russian-flagged ship. And I know some of you were just like, insurance really is work with me. Without insurance, you can't enter or exit port or go into any sort of congested waterway like, say, the Suez Canal. You can't sail without it. And in January, those regulations expand to cover any ship carrying any Russian cargo. Now, what does this mean? It means the Chinese are looking for ways to get around this. They've rented a half a dozen super tankers. They've parked them off the coast of Portugal, and they're using small shuttle tankers to bring crude from these 2 ports around NATO countries get to the raft, transfer them to a super tanker, and then make the long sail around China because the shuttle tankers don't have that kind of range. So one of two things is going to go down here. Number one, some country or private enterprise that doesn't like this is going to go out and hijack one of those tankers. Latvia could do it. We could do it. Portugal could do it. And as soon as that happens, you have a failed insurance policy, and that shipping company basically goes under. If that shipping company happens to be Costco, that gets interesting. Second, we get to January, and no one can take the stuff anyway. Now, this isn't Texas. Russian crude comes from the permafrost. Now, you guys are all Southerners. You probably don't understand this, but in the north, when it gets cold, as long as you're moving, you're okay. But if you stop, you die. Same in the permafrost with oil. As long as the oil is flowing through that subsurface frozen layer, as long as it's moving, it's okay. But if you, for whatever reason, can't offload crude from the ports to a tanker, the tanks fill up, pressure builds back up, all the way back to the wellhead, and then the wellhead freezes from the inside. And the water that comes up as a byproduct freezes solid, and when water freezes, it expands and it cracks the pipe. The last time the Russians had to shut stuff in, it was 1992. It took them 30 years to repair the damage. They didn't finish until December. So we're looking at all 5 million barrels from Western Russia potentially going offline in a very short period of time. Now, when the first phase of sanctions hit back in March, there was a concern, I had a concern, that it was going to happen a lot faster. But two things happened. Number one, the Russians shut in some of their non-Siberian production instead of their Siberian production, and that bought them about 1 million barrels per day of leeway. And then second, the Chinese sent that raft out. And so they were able to start shipments again once the tankers got into place. And so it took about 6 weeks. They were able to get new tankers into place, and they were able to start things up. What's likely to happen in January is going to be at least a factor of 4 more intense, and that's where you lose capacity completely. Now, one of the things that the Europeans are discovering right now, one of the things that those of you who are in the oil business understand now, is that when you're dealing with energy, it's something that's relatively inelastic for demand. So let's say you need a gallon of gas to drive to work. Let's say you can only get 3/4 of a gallon. Not only will you pay anything to get that last quarter, the pricing scheme for that last quarter determines what the pricing scheme for the rest of it is. The marginal supplier, the marginal demand, that's what sets pricing in inelastic markets. That means we could easily have oil prices on a global scale over 250 with like 2 weeks of notice. That's what we're looking at here. Now, in that environment, I have no doubt that a president that is populist as Biden is going to slam shut the window on American oil exports in order to separate the North American market from everybody else. But that is an hour-long conversation for a different time. Okay, let's talk about the Germans. Same map, let's look at the red lines. These are natural gas lines. This is the one that matters. This is Nord Stream. This is the one that got blown up yesterday. Before it got blown up, the Russians had given the Germans a simple threat. It's like, we're shutting it down. They shut it down the 1st of September. And we're not going to turn it on again until such time as the sanctions stop and you withdraw from NATO and quit assisting the Ukrainians. A lot of people are giving the Germans a lot of crap about being really slow to the punch on weapons transfers. I understand that. However, please consider the scale of the ultimatum that the Russians have given them. The Germans don't think of energy and manufacturing like we do. We are very agnostic about where we get our inputs. Some from Canada, some from Mexico, some here, some from China. The whole thing shuffles around. And the advantage of that is we get a more efficient system at a lower cost, but sometimes we lose reliability. We're stressing with some of that with our inflation situation today. The Germans are all about stability. So they bring in relatively inexpensive Russian gas. Their domestic petrochemical system processes that into chemicals. That forms the basis of their heavy and medium industry, and that's what leads to their aerospace and automotive sectors. If you break that first link, especially in an environment where the marginal supplier sets the price, none of the rest of it is viable anymore. The Russians have told the Germans, you can be modern or you can be Western. And so far they've chosen Western. They know they're going to deindustrialize. They know this is the end of ThyssenKrupp, of BMW, and the rest. So before you're too harsh on them, consider what they have chosen to give up already. And now with the pipeline gone, there's no going back because there is no longer an alternative. That pipe used to be 1/3 of their total supply. It was a baseline supplier. They are now trying to replace that. So let's say you need a gallon of gas to drive to work. Let's say you can only get 3/4 of a gallon.
All right,
Not
I think it's going to get hit now.
anything to get that last quarter.
Well,
The pricing scheme for
yeah,
that
there
last
you go.
quarter determines what the pricing scheme for the rest of it is. The marginal supplier, the marginal
Sell
demand,
at
that's what sets
42672.
pricing in inelastic markets. That means we could easily have oil prices on a global scale over 250 with like 2 weeks of notice. That's what we're looking at here. Now, in that environment, I have no doubt that a president that is populist as Biden is going to slam shut the window on American oil exports in order to separate the North American market from everybody else. But that is an hour-long conversation for a different time. Okay, let's talk about the Germans. Same map, let's look at the red lines. These are natural gas lines. This is the one that matters. This is Nord Stream. This is the one that got blown up yesterday. Before it got blown up, the Russians had given the Germans a simple threat. It's like, we're shutting it down. They shut it down the 1st of September. And we're not going to turn it on again until such time as the sanctions stop and you withdraw from NATO and quit assisting the Ukrainians. A lot of people are giving the Germans a lot of crap about being really slow to the punch on weapons transfers. I understand that. However, please consider the scale of the ultimatum that the Russians have given them. The Germans don't think of energy and manufacturing like we do. We are very agnostic about where we get our inputs. Some from Canada, some from Mexico, some here, some from China. The whole thing shuffles around. And the advantage of that is we get a more efficient system at a lower cost, but sometimes we lose reliability. We're stressing with some of that with our inflation situation today. The Germans are all about stability. So they bring in relatively inexpensive Russian gas. Their domestic petrochemical system processes that into chemicals. That forms the basis of their heavy and medium industry, and that's what leads to their aerospace and automotive sectors. If you break that first link, especially in an environment where the marginal supplier sets the price, none of the rest of it is viable anymore. The Russians have told the Germans, you can be modern or you can be Western. And so far they've chosen Western. They know they're going to deindustrialize. They know this is the end of ThyssenKrupp, of BMW, and the rest. So before you're too harsh on them, consider what they have chosen to give up already. And now with the pipeline gone, there's no going back because there is no longer an alternative. That pipe used to be 1/3 of their total supply. It was a baseline supplier. They are now trying to replace that with 7 marginal suppliers. The math for a German recovery, the math for continuation of the German industrial experience no longer works. If you need a Beamer, buy it now. There won't be another one next year. It's going to get worse because this is the German backup plan. These are the pipes that come from Russia to Germany that cross through the war zone. They're the only ones that are still running. The Germans are now relying on no one blowing up land-based infrastructure in the middle of a land war.
Wow.
The advantage of EVs is that once you get the electricity, you only have to pay for the materials once. And it's cheaper in theory to fuel up with electricity than with oil or natural gas. And the supply chains for that are simpler, right? That's kind of, from a security point of view, the attraction of green tech. There's a problem on the front end, though. Conventional cars, because they get their energy from a separate source, the vehicles themselves, from a material standpoint, are pretty simplistic. But EVs are electric, far more complicated, order of magnitude more complicated to build and needing more materials. This kind of represents what you need, inputs for electric cars in the top versus conventionals. Here's the same data, but now for power generation. So you've got wind and solar at the top, coal and natural gas at the bottom. The issue is primarily one of exposure. A coal plant can have a roof, a solar panel cannot. You have to insure it against the elements, if you will, and that takes a lot more materials. Copper, nickel, cobalt, and zinc. Russia is one of the 3 largest suppliers in the world. We can't have globally available fossil fuels without the Russians at a reasonable price. And there's no way we can do the green transition without them.
I think it's okay to have some options in place, buy some options and keep it.
Just as we're a little agnostic about our chemicals and our energy, we're equally agnostic about our
It's a good
steel.
target to reach, man.
We're very weird in that. Everyone else is a
A little
little
more
paranoid
stop
about steel.
here.
So if they can't
This
produce
will
the
get
iron ore
somebody here.
themselves, they import it.
I don't want to
They
speak
throw
too
it into a
soon.
blast furnace, usually powered by coal, and they get an intermediate product called pig iron, which they then go on to make finished steel products. Hot rolled is stuff that you're not going to see where you're primarily concerned about strength. So automobile frames or the beams in a building or rebars in a highway. Cold rolled is the pretty stuff. If there's anything on you, like your watch that's steel, that's cold rolled. If it's on your appliances and you can see it, it's cold rolled. If it's on your roof, cold rolled. We don't do it this way. For various reasons, the United States has very few smelters at all. So what we normally do is we import our hot rolled steel because that's easy to make. And for the cold rolled stuff, we import pig iron. And then we run it through our facilities and we make the highest value add steel on the planet, and we export a lot of that. 3/4 of global pig iron supplies come from Russia and Ukraine. The Russian facilities are under sanction. The Ukrainian facilities lost power because, you guys remember that nuclear power plant that has been in the news that the Russians have
Stop
occupied?
saying nuclear,
That is
man.
the
Why
sole
would you
source
say
of
that?
electricity for the entire Ukrainian steel sector. It's just gone. We get 2/3 of our pig iron from these two countries. So we are now seeing steel price appreciation in addition to all the other inflationary pressures that are out there. All right, let's talk about one tiny little issue before we go to the big stuff. Chairman Xi has created history's tightest cult of personality. He has prosecuted or imprisoned or exiled everyone in China
Wow.
that is capable of independent thought.
The fuck?
He has shot the messenger so many times, literally,
What the hell?
that no one will bring him information any longer. Not information they're afraid he won't like, information. When Putin lied to his face a week before the war started, saying that he had no intention of starting a war, the people in the back of the room had to just be horrified because they knew they couldn't challenge Putin. When the power outages started last May, it's obvious from policy in China that Xi didn't find out about it until September. We didn't get our first policy to deal with it until February. COVID's a fun one. You know, we're in the South here. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that there's a diversity of opinions on COVID. Some of us are part of the vaccine crowd. Some of us think that natural immunity is the only way to go. And I think if we're all being honest with one another, or at least with ourselves at home in the dark with the lights out and the doors locked, that the other side has some points that are worth consideration. But neither of these are options in China. The Chinese system has been sufficiently successful in keeping COVID away from the general population that no one has natural immunity. And we now have more than enough data to prove that the Chinese vaccines don't work. If COVID were to get fast and loose in the population, you would have 2 to 5 million deaths a month for at least the first 6 months. And in a one-man cult of personality rule, that is a regime-ending event. So lockdowns are all they can do. So we have seen city after city go into lockdown. Doesn't matter the impact on the export market or the manufacturing supply chain system, it just doesn't matter. Lockdowns are the only way that they can go. And at the pace that they're going, they're not going to get a meaningful vaccine within the next 2 years. This is our new normal. This is the best case scenario. Because there's been a lot of talk about the Russians shifting some of their energy exports to China, but China is actually the country that's going to suffer the most from the Ukraine war, with the obvious mentions of Ukraine and Russia themselves. Because most of the crude and most of the natural gas that currently flows from Russia south to China, it's all in eastern Siberia. And every single one of those fields has no history back before 1992 because the Soviets did not have the technology to develop them. It took the super majors and the Western services firms to bring that online, and they are all now gone. So we don't know how long they can remain in operation, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, but we know they're all going to zero. And the infrastructure that takes energy from Western Siberia west into Russia has no physical connection to the infrastructure in Eastern Siberia that goes south to China. You're talking about 2,000 miles plus of gaps in unpopulated territories where you'd have to build it. Assuming they can get Western assistance in finance and tech and construction, that's a 10-year project that will cost in excess of $100 billion. Even the Chinese can't really speed that up very much. So China is looking to lose all of its land-based fuel transfers from the Russian space. So we're looking at 3 million in eastern Siberia going away and 5 million in western Siberia going away. That's 8% of global markets. You're talking $250 oil before the Americans do anything. And then finally there's Taiwan. Everything that the Chinese thought that they thought was true about war has been proven wrong. Because they've been modeling their Taiwan stuff off of a lot of the Russian stuff. I mean, the Chinese aren't dumb. They're using China as kind of a canary in the coal mine, a test case to see how everyone reacts. So they thought going against Taiwan would be easy. But they certainly thought going against Ukraine would be easier because you can literally walk to Ukraine from Moscow. Yeah, it's a bit of a swim to get to Taiwan. So all of a sudden they know the war is not going to be easy. They assumed that no one would do anything, that no one would help Taiwan. Well, that's out the window. They assumed that no one would punish Russia because it was too important to international economics. Say what you will about the Russian economy, but it is a massive exporter of food and energy products. China is the world's largest importer of both. If you take the sanctions that are against the Russians today and put them on the Chinese, you have industrial collapse and famine in less than 6 months, and probably more than 500 million dead from famine within 3 years. So normally I would say the Chinese would look at this like, okay, crap, everything we've planned on for 45 years is wrong. We got to start over. But we have a one-man cult of personality state that has systematically purged everyone in the country capable of independent thought. This is normally where you take your smart people and throw them to a back room with some pizza and say, give me a plan B. But Xi has shot all those people. And so China's slamming its head on the wall over and over and over until something cracks. And I don't think that thing is going to be Taiwan.
40 to 5. Chart from 1127. 334. At least you're getting some kind of momentum towards this. So just want to make sure that we're reading this well. Okay, so this is the spot chart. Go to the futures. What's going on? It's time to get out. Yeah, that move may not happen. This is worth the risk reward. Of course it is. What to hold on to it, man. Rather than running away. Alright, I've been making fun of options, buying options this morning, but look at this. Had you bought this, had you just placed a stop buy order here, like how we did in the futures. Yeah. So you're seeing a sideways market, most probably a bull flag. And if you placed your order here, right, you'd be filled in, and this is good. This is good momentum. Oh, 50 points. So let's say 55 points is what you would have earned. We are sitting pretty now even for this. So 55 multiplied by a minimum of 200 quantities would be 11,000 fucking bucks. Now that's what we would have got. But I didn't have the guts to buy that today. That's okay, maybe tomorrow. So here is 3 grand something, and that too. I was sitting on a loss in the morning, so I'm covering that up. Let it run, let's see what happens. Can shift this up. I think this would be the right place to shift it. This or that. Wow. That's fine, you can come back in, man. That's fine. It's a good bearish reversal candle. Let me check out the delta on that one. No, there's no delta. No negative delta there, man. Who are you trying to eyewash? Nobody. Just you. Yeah, this is part of the game. That's fine. Right, so coming back to the options buying, that would have been, I mean, this is classical compression or consolidation pattern that you saw. It would have been very nice for buy order to be here. And I think even if you're using this instead of this, you could probably have a smaller stop loss, right? Or this. So 314 and 339. Oh, that's not a small stop loss if you're taking big orders relative to my account. This, yeah, but then you don't know how the next channel would be, right? So this is when we know that this is a candle, it's advisable to take it here. What now? How would this have played? Just want to be prepared for the next time. How would this be played? There you go. See, a buy about this would mean that your stop loss is big, and you don't want a big stop loss. This is a 30-point stop loss. No. Oh, is this a strong reversal by any chance? Seems like it, yeah. The measured move, I think, yeah, we're almost there, so we can get out. I think they'll just take you out. You don't have to get out. Your time's up, man. I can move the stop below the EMA. Oh, so from a profit of what? $1,300-$1,400, you're now coming to break even. Which is fine. But along with the taxes, it would be a loss, so that's fine. It's okay. I'll stick to the rules. This couldn't go on forever. What about the delta? No, look at the delta. Why is this so less? Am I doing something wrong? I think I am. I messed with the settings. Well, what's happening, man? I should get these in the thousands, and I used to be happy. Feeling that, hey, there's a lot of shit going on. I don't know what happened. I have to watch the tutorial to understand that bit. Yeah, so I used to see this in thousands, not hundreds. Pretty sure I did something. Let's see, are we stopped out? Not yet! We're still in. We are still in, yes. Alright, see if you are okay to take a small risk here. You can go by textbook, right? You have a trend line now that you can draw from here to here. Okay. Wait for the trend line break. See if it is a retest. So I think you can hold your position till the retest if you want to. Well, it depends on how badly you want to be a part of this. My analytical powers are close to zero now. I have no analytical power left. Yeah, it could go test this and then fall the fuck down. I don't know. Maybe it can. Maybe it won't. You'll just shoot till the measured move here. Anything could happen. This is that one fucking pullback that scares the shit out of people. Out of longs and get into shorts. Don't have balls of steel, but I'm going to wait this up with the stop loss here. When it goes up, then hopefully there'll be shorts from here with a stop loss here. Pretty sure there are. They're in profit now. They're in profit. And it's pretty sad. I mean, you had to ride the move for a few $1,000. You lost, the equal amount just a few seconds in the morning because of the huge spike down, that one big candle down. Just spoiled it for me. Now I gotta wait. This is not a bad move by any chance. 140 points. Not bad. But yeah, you can capture all that, still not make any money. This could even be a bear flag formation. Down flag and down. Stops get triggered. It could be it. The pole's not big enough. Is that consolation? Maybe. Okay, so I'm coming up with a change in strategy. Rather than leaving this to chance, what I want to do is square this off, go by here, hoping that once it comes with the fuel, fuel move up. Or it could just stop here and then reverse down, the up leg being finally over. It could be that too. I don't know. There, I'm out. So you can see all this effort for what? $670, right? And the reason for that is the early morning loss of 2,787 rupees. And then I did this in 2 installments. Once you lose money in the start itself, it's early to recover. It gets really difficult to recover it. And yeah, this went up to 1200 odd, but I decided not to hold on. See, this is the reason why. Oh no, it's too soon to say that this is the reason why, because you have no idea why they're taking this, right? So this trend line that got broken, the test of the upper extreme is not yet done. I'm almost certain that it would, but then this move was a huge move up and happened very quickly. There was a spike up, right? So whenever there's a spike, there's no compulsion for them to actually go retest it. So I got out here. Do I want to get back in here? Yes, I do. But at what? What is the reward that you're getting? What is the risk that you need to take? People say they don't overtrade. But if you keep the risk and reward to your favor, you may end up making a loss today, but overall, I think it would be... Oh, damn! Oh, no. Too late to place the order there. They just shot up. I could have just shut up and I could have waited, man. My stop was here anyway, so... Well, this could have been a good 15 bucks, $2,000. I don't know. Damn. Everywhere 42,900. Wow. But I think it's good that you didn't. See now, because if it continues down, that is the... Again, it's a spike up. That will be the end of the leg up. I'm counting 2 legs down now. If it moves down. If it moves up, then it's just a pullback. You can have a much bigger move somewhere here. We can just make changes in the policies of buying and selling the next time. So what I would do now is have a look at the options chart, stir up some salt in your wounds. Not your wounds, my wounds. See, this would have been a big stop loss. The risk would have been too much. And this is practically a trading range. Now to buy on top or sell in the bottom of it. If you get a small candle somewhere here, you could probably think of buying it because the risk is relatively lower. So would I have still purchased this I did in the futures contract. I bought the high of a trading range. Today it worked out in my favor, but it may not always work out in my favor. So I think this is time for this. Having a look at, yeah, you have the end of this leg up. Okay, this is 42,715. 42. $42,700. Oh, I don't want to do this from here. $42,700 PE. So this could be a safe buy. The stop loss of 240. Um, $275. $275. Small order, not a big one. Because I'm pretty certain that there could be a test of the prior extreme again. That's how it mostly works. Oh, it's going back up. If it is, then we won't get triggered. We don't have to worry. We won't get triggered if it goes back up. What is this? Oh, this is the futures. My stop was here. I would have been out. Had I got in, my stop would have been here again. I would have been out. So it's good that you didn't get in there. That's fine. We did what we could. Okay, so I guess it's PE time now. Two legs down at least. After this leg up. Oh, the order is confirmed. Not going to exceed my stop loss no matter what. This will get tested. You know it, man. It will get tested even if I put it here. So what's the point of me putting it here in case this will be tested anyway, right? So I'm just going to put it to the tail and see what's going to happen. If you have to test me, test it. If you are giving me another entry, I will be getting in. Rest assured, man. I'm not going to let it go. It's a bullish day, right? So any counter trend trade that you take, you really need the balls to do it. You really need to. But see, again, the odds may be in the favor of this. See, in case there's a huge spike down at this time, the other bears would join in and that would shoot the price further down, and the PE value would just be, worth it. And P's been falling down since morning. You can expect some correction at least till 400. But it can also come later on, right? It does not have to come now. So you can go up and then again test this and then take my stop and then again go up. So I'm mentally prepared to enter 2 times if need be. See, I mean, I was going up. It has to test this extreme, brother. Why would you think that it won't? I don't think that it won't. But I think that the leg up is finally over this. Can have some bit of bounce from the EMA, and then I think it should be smooth sailing down. It should be extremely smooth, and it's sailing down. I'm not cocky about it. This is how I've seen life unfold in front of me in the stock market. Alright, so like I said, okay to go ahead. Oh, excuse me. With 2 entries if need be here. I'm going to kind of keep the same stop losses. So I think this is a grand. 40, 50, 60, 70, 30. Yeah, that's too much. But that's what happens when you're in 5-minute charts. Yeah. Well, this would have been ideal, wouldn't it? Yeah. That would have been ideal. But let's see where this takes us. Yeah, it's going on. Come on, fall down, man. Show some love. What the fuck? What is happening? They're gonna come for this. You know it. They're gonna come for this, man. I'll just put your grand down in confidence. Yeah, it would. It certainly would. All those things you read about early bears before the trend reversal, the guys who see things in their heads and then they take counter trend trade. That is what is happening now. Oh no. Oh. What is this going to be? Is that a hunt for stops for all the people who took the trade later? I don't know. But yeah, we've done the technical homework, right? So count on this. So I'm not going to swing it, I'm going to scalp it. And in case it goes in my favor, which it should ideally, because I've been a good boy. So it should go in my favor. So if it does, I'm just going to get the stop up to maybe 280, 290 and wait. That's the limit of swings, that I'm going limit of scalps that I'm going to focus on. There should be a good momentum downside now. There should be. You're having this bullish candle take out the stops. It's a small indication of the same, that it could go down more. Yeah, but anything could happen, and there's time decay. So more time it takes, the swings, at least in this chart, get really boring. Should I have shorted futures? No, I didn't want to because I mean, you sit your ass out for it for such a long time with your, even if your speculation is right, you're not making enough money there. Unless, because you need investment, you need uh, at least 50 lots or 100 lots there. And then it makes sense for you to sit down, trade futures, because that will make sense. Because say you did what you did and you made $1,20,000 with 100 lots, that makes sense. But here with a small quantity, you're right about your analysis. You're right about when to get out. You did get out when it was time, and still, the kind of money that you get with 25 is too less. So let's see. Let's wait and see if this works out. I have a feeling that it might, unless it's just an eyewash, and then we'll go back up. Because I think till now the downtrend, the bears have not been able to establish themselves as much. So let's see what happens. $42580 should have correction at least till 42580 now. So we'll just should we at least move till 300. Right, so this is what I feared would happen. Take the stops and it would go back up again. हेलो, हाँ जी बोलिए। नहीं 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 अभी नहीं है सर। So I fear it happened. It did happen again. Is it stop loss hunting? You can use your imagination to give it whatever name you want to give it. But this was feared. It would come back, but thankfully, it happened now. Just need to have the mental strength to take up the trade again if the merits are right. Didn't take huge quantities because of that. There was a fear that it would come back down. And again, you see it's not a slow movement down, it's an explosion towards the downside. So it's volatile, to say the least. Just spare a thought for the guy who's just bought it here. The moment he buys it and palm, even before he can place a stop loss, the odds would get hit, and probably I think this would be 275 and 243 multiplied by 25. 75, 243. What? Something's wrong. 275. Oh yeah. Minus 2, 1,600 bucks. This is 1,600 bucks right here. We end up losing 1,600 here. What's the loss? It's 3 weeks square off before that. No, we shouldn't. See what the market is doing now is it's forming a triple top. We'll adjust this later, but I think it will go beyond 230. No, I'm not averaging it. I'm getting out of this and then placing another move in case there is an opportunity for it. I'm not averaging it. I will never do that unless I'm in profit. Just holding on to see if this gets triggered. Let me show you. This is how the chart looks now. Right, so here the up leg was supposed to be over, and then I took a short position somewhere here based on the 5-minute charts. Okay, here, and the stop was here somewhere, and now it's gone back up. It would be a very good buy setup in case this overshoots, a very good sell setup in case this overshoots and forms a top somewhere here. That would be extremely good to consider. Let's see what happens. We're still sitting on a loss of 800 bucks. I'm not averaging. I am not averaging this. I'm sitting put. Let the stop loss get taken off. Let there be confirmation of maybe a triple top formation on the 1-minute chart. let the previous high get taken off, and then you can be more confident about taking a short position then. And if the previous high is not getting taken out, it's more like a head and shoulders formation, and everyone knows what a head and shoulders formation is, so it may not work out. For us, it would have been ideal if the previous extreme was taken out by the current trend up. That would symbolize the end of the up leg, and then we could have had a very strong down leg. Plan's still in motion though. Let's see. Hey, this is one of my favorite YouTubers, Intraday Hunter. No matter what happens, this guy is in and out of the market in 40 minutes.
80,000 के
Profit
बढ़ेगा
of
तो सेलिंग की ट्रेड निफ्टी कैंडल
no, he's had a bad
देखने से
day.
तो क्या होगा, थोड़ा सा वेट करता हूँ 2-3 मिनट के बाद देखता हूँ इसको में क्या हो चुका है.
No. Oh, there you go. This guy, he is absolutely the delight to watch.
देखने से तो क्या होगा, थोड़ा सा वेट करता हूँ 2-3 कुछ ऐसा.
Have a look.
कि अंदर
So,
काफी बड़ी समस्या हो.
this is a loss of 26,000. This is a loss of 49,000. Now, to hold on to this, you need balls of steel. This guy probably has, you know, balls of titanium and maybe 3 or 4 spare ones that he carries around with himself. 49,000 worth of loss, and have a look. He holds on, he knows his conviction, he's convinced where it's going to go. Then there's a profit here, and then look when he gets out.
अपना प्रॉफिट कम
He's getting out at 1,12,000
इस प्रकार के
odd.
प्रॉफिट में वेट किया जा सकता है, लेकिन वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा खतरा महसूस हो रहा था, कहीं सेलिंग में आ गया कोई बड़ा सा रेड
So one of the best price action traders that I've seen on YouTube.
काटना ही पड़ेगा, काफी यहाँ पे रिस्क अपना.
The main reason that I say that is because his risk reward is 1:1, and he's right. I think 80 or 90% of the times with this analysis. If you go check his P&L, you'd see green days on every day except 1 or 2. And on the days that he has red days, the loss is restricted to 80,000 or maybe 1 lakh. This guy literally, I think he's one of the best price action traders you can see. I mean, it's sad that he has 67,000 subscribers. He'd grow, I think, into something phenomenal. He's a legend in the making. So, yeah. And I feel good whenever I have, when I'm sitting, say I'm in a trade, I'm not able to put my heads around what's happening. Then I just go to YouTube to just keep myself occupied. Otherwise, I'd fall asleep. I'm an old man now. So then you see Intraday Hunter, and then you see that, oh man, this guy, it's half an hour, it's an hour, and this guy's already made, a few lakhs, and he's out. So, yeah. Now this is us from a loss of 800 odd. We are now seeing a loss of 50 bucks. Okay. I'm not doubling down on this. I'm just not going to take it now. Then I'm going to push up the stop loss here. I think I just avoided the bullet by a little. Is there a measured move down from here? I have absolutely no idea if there is, to be honest. But going by what I've seen, it's good to hold on to this for some time, because the correction was overdue, and we've seen very good pattern on the 1 minute chart. This is a very good head and shoulders pattern that got formed, and it's said that it's never a very successful pattern because it's obvious, and then people place their stops and their orders roughly around the same time, so it gets hunted down. But just going to wait, see what happens here. We can probably hope for a test of 42,524. So that's good till 300. So I'll have a target set of 310. Okay. Let's see what happens. If it comes back down, then I've obviously read the pattern all wrong. So yeah, let's see. In options, it's always tempting to get out at break even every time it goes in your favor, but then if it's an explosive fall, then you miss out on a lot because it's very erratic. The whipsaw is extreme. You have a huge candle down, huge candle up. You don't want to get stopped out, especially when you're right. Now we are below the 20-day EMA. 20 bar EMA, not 20-day EMA. Below the 20 bar EMA, and oh, look at that. I think once it crosses, you can lift up your stop.
So the other my sweet honey love, there's a good love shine a light on you.
One of my favorite songs from the Rolling Stones. I heard it for the first time in the Ray Donovan movie, the final movie that they made of Ray Donovan. After Mickey gets killed, he's reminded of his childhood and brings a tear to your eyes. It's very emotional the way they made it, and yes, beautiful song. Seems like a bear flag forming. Can get good momentum now. Look at that candle, man. That'll make sense to you. That'll make sense to you, man. What's with that candle? What's the problem with that candle? Damn. You could have put the stop up. I mean it. I could have chose not to. You can call it greed. I've seen this movie before, man. Back in profit now. Trading on the basis of strong technicals. There was no reason for it to go back up. Go back up to what? I don't know. That would still mean an incomplete leg. But yeah, okay. Come on. Let's do what we're supposed to.
Hey everybody, Peter Zion here, coming to you from frosty Colorado, and today we are going to pick back up with the demographic series. It's open-ended. I don't know how far we're going to go, but
No,
we're going to
it's
talk
coming
about
back.
Europe. Now, as with everything in Europe, whether it's culture or finance or politics or strategy or geography, every country's different. Every country has their own story. But you can break Europe into roughly 4 pieces. So let's start with the
What is the price action that's giving rise to this moment, man? I'm able to figure that out.
That were a little late to the game when it came to
What's happening?
industrialization, and they've proven far better at adapting to it. Part of this is geography. There's just a lot more elbow room.
Oh no,
in
it's a
places
measured
like
move
Sweden
of
or
the head and
France and
shoulders.
others,
That
it's like Germany or Italy.
I've
But there's
reading
a policy
calculate.
component here as well. The Scandinavians plus the French have some very strong pro-natalist policies. And so while you may be paying 60% of your income as tax, you also have cradle-to-grave welfare support and especially child care. There's the word I was going for free. And in that sort of environment, it is very easy for people in their 20s to have families. And so you typically have children being born at a younger age and more children being born per couple. The Swedes have taken this the furthest in that they actually force the men in a relationship to take time off whenever a child is born in order to bond with their children. The result is mixed in terms of some social policies because it really makes people less willing to hire young people and especially women, but it comes at the benefit of a much higher birth rate, which stabilizes the tax base and the worker base over the long run. So, you have to choose what you're going to sacrifice. Anyway, these countries, even in the worst case scenario where their aging continues to accelerate, are still going to be here at the end of the century. And that's better than what you can say for the groups, the countries that are in group number 2. And this is the Germano-centric world, primarily Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Austria, and Italy. These are countries that were part of an earlier wave of an industrialization that predates World War II, and they don't have nearly as much elbow room, and as a result, they're very heavily urbanized, productive economies, but there hasn't been...
Waiting for 2 more pushes down
decades.
the same
So
stop
it's not
loss.
that the Germans and the Italians and the others are running out of kids. That happened 40 years ago.
This decade, they are going to run out of working age adults. They've got a full inverted pyramid, and the bulge in that pyramid for all of these countries is beyond 50. It's already reaching into the 60s, which means that this decade, this entire zone ages into mass retirement and obsolescence. And we do not have an economic theory designed for what happens in a country where you no longer have children or young adults or mature adults and it's all retirees. So we've always known that the German economic model was going to collapse before the end of this decade. It's just an open question of whether something else, whether it's a trade war, an energy crisis, or I don't know, a war with Russia, speeds this process up. These are the countries that are going to vanish from the world by 2050. Group 3 is a little bit brighter. These are countries that came a little bit late to the industrialization game for various reasons, and they are primarily the countries of Central Europe and Iberia. So let's start with the Iberians. Spain and Portugal were very late to the industrialization game. They existed in kind of a pseudo-semi-industrialized dictatorship under governments until the 1980s, and it was only in the 80s that they really started to join the European family in the modern world. So they have a similar structure to what's going on in Germany and the Netherlands and the rest from a much later start, so their bulge is in their 40s instead of nearing their 60s. And as a result, these countries have at least another 20 years to go. Now, the problem here is that because they were late industrializers, their birth rates and their urbanization rates are changing more quickly than those really aged countries in Central Europe. And that's a real problem moving forward because it means by the time we get to 2060, these countries are just as doomed as the Germans are today. On the other half of that equation, you've got some countries that started even later, primarily the Central European countries of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. Industrialization under the Soviet system in many ways echoed what we saw in Spain, and these countries really didn't start to develop in full until we got to the 1990s. The problem is it came late, so the birth rate drops were rapid. They still have a lot of people in their 30s. Their bulges are people in their 30s and into the early 40s, so these countries have at least another 20 to 30 years to go. However, one of the many aspects of the European Union is free movement of people under the Schengen Accords, which means that if you were in Latvia or the Czech Republic, odds are when you were in your 20s, you decided to decamp your home country and go work somewhere else in Western Europe because the pay was better. And so as long as you are transient like that, you're not having kids. So for the last generation, the young people in these countries really haven't repopulated. And even if they do decide to come home when they're in their 40s or even 50s, it's too late. They've missed the window for having children. So they are younger. They are experiencing faster growth. It is healthy growth. It's based on young workers. It's based on mature workers, all the normal things. But there's absolutely nothing coming up behind. There is no younger generation at all. So by the time you get to 2050, most of these countries will have simply been aged out. Now, the final group we're going to have to deal with in a different video because they're so fundamentally different from the first three, and that's the Orthodox world. Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania, Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia. Here are countries where the numbers are so radically different it just requires separate treatment. We'll do that next time. All right, see you then.
Oh, man, that deserves a like. We're getting a good move down, thankfully. Come on, man, move. So with you. We're looking for a measured move up to 42562. Just to show you where that is, still here. This is where I want to get out. Like I said, I could be wrong. That's where I plan to get out if I'm profitable. Well, look, Mom, momentum. There'll be more momentum, son, don't worry. Okay, Mom, I'll wait. This is next level crazy shit. Ah, no. You were wrong, Mother. You were wrong. You're wrong, Leonidas. Ah. Damn. Damn. I think there's no liquidity today. I don't understand this shit, man. Why are there such huge counter moves in a directionless sideways piece of shit market? Who are they shaking off? Or are they shaking people off? I don't know. Have a look. Oh, this. Man, I don't know. I screwed the settings up here. I think I know what it is. Let's go to auto flow, lot size 50, power trades, block. That's the only thing that I changed. Okay. Yeah, this is essentially to do with your, bars here, volume here, I think this is lot size. Oh, damn, I think I'll do it later. I think they're showing lots here, not the amount. Yeah. Okay. While we're doing this, I think they're just jumping up and down. There you go, see? Up, down, up, down, up, down. I don't know what they're trying to achieve by this. Yeah, we're at a loss. See, unless there's evidence to the contrary that it's going to go up, there's no point in squaring your position off. Or if you're dazed and confused, might as well, sacrifice your stop loss and then, shut up and think over what went wrong. In between a trade makes no sense because the way the chart is moving now, down and then you're like up, oh damn, up and then down and then up, down. These are huge candles being formed for what? Very uncharacteristic. See, this is a failed bull flag on the 5-minute time frame. What's happening? So even if it forms an area of consolidation here, Trend's been down, so it'll break to the downside. Well, this is just to give me some, just to pacify me. I wouldn't be surprised if it just shoots up and just vanishes. Well, then what that actually does is it screws with your mind. Let's see, 275 is where we are at. It went all the way up to 295-ish. Yeah, but that's my regular target for this. It's actually 200 multiplied by that. It's 20 times, right? So just went with 50 because initially we entered somewhere, I think here or here, the same position on a 5-minute chart. Okay, we got our entry somewhere there. And then it came back down. Stop loss was here. Move my stop up. I think now it's probably time to move your stop up further. This is going nowhere, man. This is going nowhere. Okay. There's nothing wrong with the system. Saying don't move the stop up. Okay, I won't move it up. There's another guy that I follow. He's very honest, very insightful. I have a lot of respect for him, VP Financials. I wish him well. Makes a lot of money too. I mean, this guy is big numbers guy, not like me. Look at me. This is $150. I have my balls in my mouth. What was I planning to see? Right. Listen to the song. Yes, maybe the song is lucky. I don't know. We're back to this. Oh, it seems like we're getting nowhere with this, so I think I want to get out because it's an options contract. It's not a futures contract. Have been futures. I would have seen some profit at least. Right, this in futures would have been. So we criticized options in the morning, and then options gave good results, and now we are. Then I decided to get into options, and now futures are giving good results. See, this would have been a perfect entry for. This is where we entered the options contract. Right. Now this is. This is where we entered. So it's still be in profit. 50 multiplied 25 times 1200 odd. But in this we are sitting at $50 because of the time decay. Yeah, just imagine, we've been at it since this candle is 12 o'clock. It's an hour now. And there is no movement at all. And the more you wait, the more the probability is that you got your move wrong. Oh God. What the hell, man? What's gotten into you, man? So during these times, don't question what's happening. Just admit that you made a mistake analyzing it. You could have probably scalped 20 points and you could have gotten out. Right? But you didn't. You chose to wait because you were thinking that you'd get a good move. But that's exactly what happened here. Thought you'd get a good move. So what can be done now? That is important. What can be done now? Should we square it off? And if it flies up, it flies up. Don't care. This is again an analysis of the 5-minute chart. You could see that's a good down move. Now we are here. Is this a bear flag? I don't think so. Whatever it is, it's consolidating here. And because the initial move was down, the move after consolidation would most probably be a down move. So, does it make sense to wait? That, my dear friends, is a question. Do we wait? Or do we get out? I'd say reduce the stop loss further, so that even if you get it wrong, you don't lose a lot. Count on it going up. What if it goes up after you hit the stop loss? Objectively, I would want to enter again, but this is an options trade. This is not futures or stock. I don't think, at least for now, I would want to enter this because I'm not certain if the bears have been able to dominate till now. So again, you're having dojis and range bars. Finally, man. Finally. Thank you, man. Yeah, this is what we were waiting for an hour. Well, I think this breakout is also going to get bought into. We waited for so long, just wait a little more, see what happens. If the breakout holds, then it's good. If it doesn't hold, I mean, we can try again next time. Damn! No. Why? It seems like a liquidity crisis. There's an expiry of, I think, Nifty expires tomorrow. I don't know why. The moves are so erratic, man. You know, it doesn't feel like you're trading a big contract. It feels like you're trading some shit. small ass company contract. This is what happens when you're trading. Stupid contracts. But Bank Nifty, I think this is terrible. If you have these kind of bars being formed so frequently, it shows poor volumes, no liquidity. What else could that be? Look at so you have 284.55. Right, so pretty close to 1 rupee of bid asking. So I think the number of people are less, maybe. We didn't touch 300. I'm going to get out. I'm going to say fuck off to them. Yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to waste more time on this. You can fly anywhere it wants to now. This is where I got out. Right. This is where my stop was. Maybe, I don't remember what. Let's see where it goes now. My target was 320 that's set initially. I think wasn't to be. Am I going to trade again? Of course I am. I'm going to stay and see if there are good opportunities that present itself and take my position accordingly. But for now, I mean, this is already 3 hours, 38 minutes. I don't expect anyone to see this, to be honest. I mean, my videos it's a new channel. My videos that are just 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, no one's seen that. My videos that are like 7-8 minutes, I think no one's seen that. It's like 10 views or 12 views. This is going to be there just for me to later on look and probably laugh at myself. And if at all there are people watching this, and if you think it is helpful or insightful, you're not alone. There are people like me who don't have a lot of capital, struggling to learn. I put in the hours every day without fail. I'm obsessed with this. I do my best to stay motivated on course. Look at this shit move now, man. Look at this. Look at this. This is so unfair. This is unfair. But that's how it is. If you have conviction, you need to stick to it. You didn't. So you lost out. It's fair and square. It was a safe bet, right? You get in here, you spotted a reversal, the leg up was over, you bought in a contract, it was just fine. It was too erratic, I don't know why. This is 5 minutes, right? This is not even 1 minute. So if your 5 minutes are so erratic, just imagine how the 1 minutes would have been. Look at this. This is 1 minute, and all for what? For $600, which I ended up selling here. I bought here. No, this was my stop loss, I guess. I don't remember, but yeah. So I feel stupid in the end. I think 275 is where I bought it. So it was somewhere here. Yeah, see, it's coming back down. Yeah, so you're not alone. Struggle is real. I think everyone needs to put in time before the account size grows. I'm at a slightly more comfortable place than I was a few months ago in terms of learning. I think no matter how much you learn, you still feel that there is a lot more to go because the topic is so vast and everyone has a different view. Yeah, so I'd wish you the best. If I take some trades again, I'd make sure to add it. But if you've endured 3 hours and 41 minutes, I must thank you for that.